Orleans is the most Africanized city in America.
The root of our culture. And let's talk about some of those things. New Orleans was founded by the French.
The second line tradition in New Orleans grew out of the blending of African and European cultural practices in the 19th century. Enslaved Africans brought with them West African ring dances, which emphasize collective rhythm, call and response, and movement in circles. When they gathered in Congo Square on Sundays, these dances evolved into highly expressive forms of music and movement. Over time, as military marching bands became more prominent in the post-Civil War era, these African circular dances began to straighten out into linear parades, merging African movement with European brass instrumentation. The role of mutual aid societies and benevolent associations was pivotal in cementing the second line tradition. Known later as social aid and pleasure clubs SAPCs, these organizations provided African Americans with financial support for funerals, healthcare, and community needs at a time when mainstream institutions excluded them. Their parades were both advertisements for their services and a public celebration of community identity. The parades typically began with a brass band, the first line, followed by neighbors, friends, and onlookers who fell in behind as the second line. By the late 1800s, the second line had also become tied to the jazz funeral tradition. Funerals began solemnly with slow hymns, but after the burial, the band would shift into lively, celebratory tunes. The crowd followed behind, waving handkerchiefs and umbrellas, and dancing to honor the life of the deceased. This merging of mourning and celebration established a cultural rhythm unique to New Orleans, where life and death were interwoven with joy, resilience, and music. The second line's origins also tie into Mardi Gras Indian culture, with its colorful costumes and performative dancing, adding yet another layer of African American artistry. By combining music, spirituality, community service, and street performance, the second line became not just a form of dance, but a living tradition that encapsulated Black life in New Orleans. In New Orleans, second lining is far more than a dance. It is a social institution. The parades allow communities, especially African American neighborhoods, to gather in public joy, turning the streets into a stage of resilience and creativity. For many participants, the experience is deeply emotional, described as an overwhelming sense of joie de vivre, a happiness and freedom expressed through music and movement. The tradition also plays a vital role in preserving New Orleans' musical heritage. Brass bands remain central to the city's identity, and second lines ensure that their sound continues to thrive. The improvised dance steps, high kicks, and swinging parasols passed from one generation to the next reinforce continuity across time, making second lining one of the most enduring cultural practices of Black America. At its core, the second line embodies community empowerment and inclusivity. Everyone is invited to join the dance, blurring the line between performer and spectator. This openness reflects the heart of New Orleans culture, where music, identity, and survival are shared experiences that bind neighborhoods together, even in the face of hardship. Although rooted in New Orleans, the spirit of the second line has spread across the United States and beyond. Festivals like the Honk Festival in Somerville, Massachusetts feature activist street bands inspired by New Orleans traditions, and even adopt names like the Second Line Social Aid and Pleasure Society Brass Band in homage. This shows how deeply the imagery and practice resonate with communities seeking joy and solidarity. Other cities have also embraced the second line celebratory style. Asheville, North Carolina, hosts its own second line bands during Mardi Gras celebrations, while Oakland, California, has a vibrant brass boppers ensemble and the Oakland Second Line Project, bringing West Coast flavor to the New Orleans spirit. Even in unlikely places like Duluth, Minnesota, Second Line processions have been adapted into local parades, proving the versatility and appeal of the tradition. On the global stage, New Orleans musicians and cultural ambassadors have introduced Second Line music and dancing through international tours, documentaries, and festivals. While no city can fully replicate the authenticity of a New Orleans parade, the imagery of parasols, brass rhythms, and communal dancing has become an international symbol of joy, resilience, and cultural pride. One of the most prominent showcases of Second Line dancing is the weekly Sunday parades hosted by social aid and pleasure clubs across the city. These rolling celebrations move through neighborhoods like Treme or Central City, often lasting several hours. They draw massive crowds who join in the dancing, turning the streets into open-air block parties. Major festivals also highlight the Second Line. Events such as the French Quarter Festival and Satchmo Summer Fest traditionally open with Second Line parades, underscoring how central this tradition is to the city's identity. Similarly, Mardi Gras parades and Super Sunday, the annual showcase of Mardi Gras Indian culture, often incorporates Second Line elements, bringing brass music and dancing into the spotlight. In addition to parades and festivals, weddings and funerals are quintessential moments for Second Line dancing. Newlyweds lead their guests in celebratory marches, waving umbrellas and dancing to brass bands, symbolizing the joyful start of their union. Likewise, jazz funerals bring communities together in moments of mourning and remembrance, transforming grief into celebration through music and dance. The Second Line tradition continues to thrive in modern New Orleans, with thousands of parades and processions each year. From neighborhood club parades to weddings and festivals, the rhythm of the brass band and the energy of the dancers remain fixtures of community life. Even crises like Hurricane Katrina could not halt the tradition. In fact, the first Second Line parade after the storm, organized by the Black Men of Labor, symbolized the city's resilience and commitment to its cultural heritage. Today, the Second Line is also benefiting from increased visibility. Parade schedules are posted online, attracting locals and visitors alike. New generations of dancers and musicians are stepping into the tradition, ensuring that the energy and techniques are passed forward. Institutions like the Backstreet Cultural Museum and the House of Dance and Feathers work to preserve and educate about Second Line history, further securing its longevity. Challenges such as occasional violence at large parades have raised concerns, but the city and its cultural leaders remain committed to ensuring Second Lines continue safely. The adaptability of the tradition, welcoming newcomers while staying rooted in community, suggests that Second Line dancing will remain at the heart of New Orleans' identity for decades to come. The Second Line is more than a dance. It is a living testament to New Orleans' history, resilience, and creativity. Born from the fusion of African ring dances, European brass traditions, and the mutual aid systems of African American communities, it has grown into a defining symbol of the city. Its unique blend of music, dance, and community makes it inseparable from the cultural identity of New Orleans. Looking forward, the Second Line's influence both at home and abroad shows its enduring power. As long as brass bands play and communities gather in the streets, the Second Line will continue to march forward, preserving the past while inspiring the future. It stands as proof that culture, when rooted in community and joy, can never be silenced.